And we're live. What's going on? I know my hair's a little crazy. I've been watching like hours worth of fight footage in prep for this video. And, you know, we got UFC Riyadh. It's right around the corner. I'm going to be breaking down my picks and predictions for the card. And I'm going to be starting off with the main event here, Adesanya versus Imavov. And then we'll work our way down. And then my prelim picks, it won't be discussed in this video. It'll be in part 2. It's coming soon, I promise. And something to note. Like, obviously, we got a stacked card. We're going to the Middle East. So they got to put, like, all the reputable names, all the household names on the card, you know, to spice it up a little bit. And then we also have these narrative shifts. And a lot of fans miss out on these narrative shifts. And it's like, I want people to notice it because it's just, like, uniquely special to what the UFC provides, like, card by card. And it's just really fun. Like, people miss out on it, but I see it and I'm like, oh my God, there's this big juicy burger full of narrative shifts and I get to dissect it. So it's real interesting. I know we saw like a bunch of like major narrative shifts at UFC 311, but pertaining to this card at Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, we got a few. We got Adesanya winning or losing, right? If he wins, he's a probably top 5 gatekeeper. Maybe he'll get a title shot against Chimaev if Chimaev beats Dricus du Plessis. If he loses, people are going to say this is a rapid downfall, especially losing to like Imavov. And, you know, it just depends on his wins. And then you got another narrative shift, right? Let's say Imavov wins in a spectacular fashion. He's going to get like a title shot right after Chimaev, you know? And if he loses, they're going to say he belongs outside the top 5, which, you know, could be the case. And they're going to call him like a top 10 gatekeeper. Then you got Shara Bullet, right? Shara Bullet. If he loses, they're all going to say he got fraud checked. But if he wins, it's a totally different story. They're going to be like, yo, watch out for Shara, man. Watch out for the Bullet. Watch out for the Pirate, brother. And Michael Venom Page, he loses. People are just going to say what they were kind of saying before, alluding to like he was never good enough for UFC level competition. And then he wins, they're going to be like, oh, MVP middleweight title run starts now. And it's just crazy. But that's how it goes. And really, the fans hype up these like narrative shifts. And then the UFC kind of guides it to become something that the fans want to view more. And they do listen to the fans. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes it's complete BS. There's a ton more if you look down the card between like Sergei Pavlovich, win or lose, Ikram Aliskerov. Imagine if he loses, dude, they're going to be like, fraud checked. But let's get into the main event here. The main event of the evening, you got Israel Adesanya versus Nassourdine, man. Nassourdine Imavov. You got Adesanya, 24 wins and 4 losses. And it's important to mention, out of those 4 losses, those all came from UFC champions or former UFC champions. And then Imavov has a 15-win, 4-loss record. Adesanya's got a 3-inch reach advantage here. I think that's where it starts to become, like, substantial, you know? That's where, like, you can really start to track with it. And the interesting with reach advantage is, like, I was with my buddy, like, a while back. We were, like, measuring our reaches. And something that people miss out on is you don't think about, like, the fighter's build. So a fighter's build plays into it. That really works for Adesanya because he's kind of, like lanky, right? Let's continue. Imavov, he's on a 3-fight win streak, right? He went 5 rounds with the Litze that ended in a majority decision. And it's a pretty close fight. Then he KO'd Cannonier in round 4, right? Jared Cannonier, controversial stoppage. I still think it's controversial. I just went ahead and rewatched that along with his fight with Brendan Allen that went 3 rounds. So, you know, this might be like a hot take or whatever, but his past fights, I think they've aged poorly so far. Well, we'll see as time goes on. I could be completely wrong. And we're going to find out on fight night. But he's only been on a 3-fight win streak as well. I think that's pretty low. 4-fight win streak, 4 title fights, still low. So he probably will need another fight. Or, I don't know. It just depends on how things play out in middleweight. But I think he needs his win over Adesanya. That would be, like, hugely significant. And then you got, like I said, Adesanya coming off of losses to the best in middleweight and light heavyweight, Dricus du Plessis, Sean Strickland, Alex Pereira, who he also got that win back via knockout. And then Jan Blachowicz, he went up to light heavyweight to try and become double champ and then was unsuccessful. So, right, we're going to take a look at cardio real quick. Adesanya's got the better cardio over 5 rounds. If you've been tracking his career, like, even if you just go online and look at stats, like, he's only gone 5 rounds, like 10 times. 9 of them were title fights. That's a lot of experience. I know I'm being like really snarky here, but like, dude, he's got the 5-round experience. There's really not a whole lot of evidence on paper to support that Imavov has a clear advantage over Adesanya. That's on paper. Now, stylistically, like watching fights, that's a whole different story. Adesanya, he's fought higher level competitors. He's a more dangerous striker. I know like Imavov fought Sean Strickland, he lost. That was his like biggest fight. But in his favor, Imavov is a more well-rounded fighter. So, you know, I got to give him points where they're due, you know? I think also, dude, he's got a seemingly invincible chin. Do you guys know he's never been KO'd in his pro career? He's got 3 KO wins in his 10 UFC bouts, including his no contest with Chris Curtis. He's had a few submission finishes pre-UFC as well. But in the UFC, I mean, he's hardly pursued takedowns in the UFC. I'm sure he's got some good grappling, and we saw some of it. He had some good wrestling against Brendan Allen, but he won't utilize it unless he finds himself in like a precarious situation where it's like a last resort. Now, Imavov could threaten Adesanya with his wrestling. I'm sure Izzy is like prepping and expecting Imavov to like shoot a takedown, at least one, especially after his most recent loss, right? Adesanya lost to Dricus du Plessis via rear naked choke. But what happened was Dricus like just started dropping these hard pops, right? It was 4 hard pops, and then Izzy couldn't protect himself because he was just so stunned from the power of those pops. And he exposed his back, and then you just saw Dricus du Plessis mount him like a pony, dude, and then sink it in. It's beautiful, dude. I just rewatched it, so I'm just like reliving it right now. But here's the thing, that like people like write off Adesanya saying that his takedown defense sucks. Dude, he is so underrated. His takedown defense is actually great. It's really hard to hold him down. And another thing to note, Adesanya is not going to try to wrestle, so it leaves less for Imavov to worry about here. You know, Adesanya's got tremendous distance management, counter-striking. All Imavov really needs to worry about is getting tagged on the feet and then not gassing out before Izzy. If he pressures him on the feet and on the ground like right away, just like overwhelms him, he's got to get in Adesanya's head here, right? And then he's got to proceed with finding Adesanya's chin. I think the best way to win against Adesanya, you got to get him out of there and get him out of there fast. And you saw him like catching up on rounds to Dricus du Plessis. So that's what he needs to do. He needs to find a finish. And then for Adesanya, his game plan should be to not headhunt. You know, he needs to go for like medium power on head strikes so that Imavov brings his hands up. And he's got to find these like hard strikes to the body. He's got to throw these body shots, body kicks. Adesanya's got to lead the pace. And the importance about the body shots is it's going to affect Imavov's cardio and maneuverability. So let's move on. Let's look at tail of the tape for Shara Bullet and Michael Venom Page. Shara Bullet 15-0. Michael Venom Page 22 wins, 3 losses. And Page has a 6-inch reach advantage. And his style is going to make it really challenging for Shara to find the distance, man. He's got to find that distance pretty quick. Like, Shara's undefeated in his pro career. He's on a 4-fight win streak in the UFC. He's got 12 KO finishes and 15 wins on his record. Meanwhile, Page, he's got 12 KOs, 3 subs, and 22 wins. And Shara's got an average of 7 strikes landed per minute. So it makes you think, like, I don't think he's going to be able to keep up with that. So that's going to slow him down. It'll probably be a pretty even striking exchange early on. But, I mean, Shara is more dangerous, dude. He's got more power. I think he's more, like, technically skilled in the boxing over MVP. My MVP's just got his, like, crazy style that just makes him hard to touch. Page also, he's leading in experience. He's fought higher level competition. He's coming off of a close loss to Ian Gary. And Ian Gary knew what to do, man. The way to beat MVP is you have to wrestle him, dude. You got to take him down. You got to hold him down. You got to find a finish. Page is really quick. He's hard to touch. He's mostly unpredictable, but he does telegraph his strikes. You'll see, like, he'll do, like, this, like, dribble thing. Like, dude, he's just like Sean O'Malley. He's, like, has he been copying Sean O'Malley, like, this whole time? Let me just circle back real quick. So we'll do this, like, telegraphing dribble. He'll jump in and get his shots in and then pull back. This is also Page's first fight at middleweight. We'll see if this helps him become less penetrable. Or, you know, maybe it'll slow him down a little bit. I don't know. I mean, this will be an easier weight cut for him as well that I just did not factor until now. Also, undefeated fighters. Like, I like pulling toward undefeated fighters, but they are more likely to lose when their opponent is harder to train for, which additionally, like, MVP is so hard to train for. Like, how do you find someone to match his style? Like, you just can't. You know, I think, quite honestly, I mean, it's really hard to make a prediction on this one. Like, I was picking MVP for, like, the last 3 weeks. I was like, MVP's going to win. And, dude, I'm backtracking, dude. I think Shara Bullet is going to win. And the way that I came to this conclusion was I was watching a lot of MVP's previous fights. And, dude, he's got a tendency to slip, man. Dude, he's a slipper. Dude, he makes these small mistakes in crossing the void, and then he gets caught on them. It happened against Kevin Holland. You know, Holland didn't capitalize on it, of course. That guy's a scrub. As well as a bout with Douglas Lima in Bellator. He slipped, dude, and he got KO'd so quick. You guys got to watch it. Douglas Lima versus MVP on YouTube. This fight's going to be determined by the fighter who keeps composed, you know, maintains their cardio, maybe even makes smarter, more calculated risks. I think that's what, like, Shara's got to do, man. The reach advantage will be a challenge for Shara, no doubt. Depth perception probably isn't as great as it could be. You know, a lot of people think that he's like, you know, obviously he's like half blind. He can see like 50% out of that right eye. But, dude, like, MVP's got to take advantage of, like, a left hook. That's going to help him out. But I've seen, like, headlines and clickbaits. Dude, people, like, seriously believe that Shara's going to get fraud checked. But, dude, Shara hasn't shown all his cards. All the cards in his deck, man, he's got some cards in his deck, dude. MVP's method of victory should be in keeping a good safe distance and frustrate Shara. He's got to, like, get him frustrated. He's got to gas him out. And, like I said, MVP should work those left hooks, wait for openings. He needs to preserve his energy in round 2. And then Shara should assess the distance. He should break the void with kicks. He should also be catching MVP on entries. Shara's got decent wrestling. I think he can get a good control on MVP against the cage and on the ground if he can hold him there or whatever. I think once he's there, he should just focus on ground and pound. Elbows. You know, I think he could find some moments there. That's the best way to fight MVP, really. Although he's got, like, 3 subs early in his career, his grappling, like, is, like, it just sucks. We've seen how that's worked against taller, lankier opponents that aren't good grapplers, like O'Malley, like, just getting, like, controlled. Like, you got the long legs, and they're just, like, so constrained and, like, packed in. And then you got, like, MVP versus Gary and so on. Let's move on to Sergei Pavlovich versus Jairzinho, Rozenstruik. We got the tail of the tape here. And Pavlovich, 18 wins, 3 losses. Rozenstruik, 15 wins, 5 losses. Technically, Rozenstruik has more experience in the UFC. Right. More fights, and he's got more time in the cage per fight. Rozenstruik is 3 wins out of his last 6 fights. It takes a little bit longer for, like, Rozenstruik to get his KO. Pavlovich is more power, so he's more efficient. And Pavlovich recently broke his win streak against 2 of the best guys at heavyweight, right? He lost to Alex Volkov. He lost to Tom Aspinall. And he's got 18 KOs in his pro record. All his knockouts in the UFC happened in the first round. So, let's talk about Rozenstruik. His last fight, he couldn't finish Tai Tuivasa. That's a huge, like, L for him. Like, yeah, I mean, he won all 3 rounds, and they called it a split decision. That's complete BS. But he couldn't finish Tai Tuivasa. That's a red flag. You know, this one's 100% ending in a finish, though. I don't think anybody would be surprised about that. Put your bet on that. Rozenstruik, he's got to be aggressive right out the start, man. He's got to keep his guard up. That's his best chance. Start a fight, he's got to be aggressive and keep his hands up. I want to see him go for inside leg kicks as well. Those leg sweeps worked really well for Tom Aspinall. He should be doing that. And then Pavlovich is kind of stiff, too. He's very stiff. I think he'll still win this one. And, you know, he hasn't been KO'd in like a year and some change. So, you know, that'll work out for him. I'm going to pick Sergei Pavlovich to win that. We have Said Nurmagomedov, 18 wins, 3 losses. He's fighting Vinicius Oliveira, 21 wins, 3 losses. It's also, like, interesting to note that these names are attributed to other great fighters, right? Like Khabib Nurmagomedov, Charles Oliveira. And, you know, on the downside, Oliveira doesn't have great jiu-jitsu. He just doesn't. He's getting out-grappled by Bernardo Sapage. However, you know, Oliveira's a knockout artist, man, in his own right. 6 strikes landed per minute. That's some good volume. Double output, the average of Said. Oliveira's got 18 finishes and 21 wins. Bet you didn't know that. 2 by sub pre-UFC. Now, I think the reason why these fighters, they'll get submission wins before the UFC, then they enter in, they don't get them, it's because the competition level is so different. Like, you got so many well-rounded and skilled grapplers, they can't compete. So they just keep it on the feet. Oliveira has a 4-fight win streak right now in the UFC, and Saeed, he's got one recent win. One recent win, recently lost to Jonathan Martinez. And he's just more experienced in the UFC octagon. More bouts, longer fights. He has a loss to Raoni Barcelos, who we just watched outperform Peyton Talbot over like 3 rounds in a row in the grappling, right? That totally made sense. I should have seen that one coming too, man. But anyway, Saeed, right? He's got a lot of wins by KO, a lot of wins by submission. He's definitely the more well-rounded fighter here. Oliveira's going to have to play this one smart, man. He's going to have to keep the fight on the feet. He's going to have to outsmart and outbox Saeed. But I'm saying Saeed wins this one. I will put all the chips in on that. Next up, we have Ikram Aliskerov. However you want to say it, 15 wins, 2 losses. Against Andre Muniz, 24 wins, 6 losses. And you know what makes this an interesting matchup is Andre Muniz, he's a submission artist with like subpar striking. Then you have Aliskerov, Dagestani knockout artist, not much of a wrestler. Despite a few like subs in his career early on, Kimuras, arm bars, he loves those, man. I saw like 2 Kimuras in a row. Both came to UFC from Contender Series wins. Then you have Aliskerov. You have 11 finishes out of 15 wins. Muniz, 19 finishes out of 24 wins. Aliskerov's got 4 bouts in the UFC. He hasn't seen past the first round. So that's a big deal, dude. Muniz has to watch his face, dude. Aliskerov can put his light size. It's got high output, 7 strikes landed per minute. And, you know, we just don't know like too much about Ikram Aliskerov's cardio, dude. Pre-UFC, he's had like a few 3-rounders. He should be fine. He's really methodical. Like, his method to win is usually KO. And then if he can't get the KO, he'll try and get a submission. And if he can't get the submission, he goes to decision. So, you know, Ikram recently lost. Obviously, right, we saw him get knocked out. He got creamed round 1 by the Reaper, Rob Whittaker. I swear I saw that coming from a mile away. Still blown away by it. But then, like, a couple months later, he gets face cranked, rear naked choked by Khamzat Chimaev in the first round. Just shows you the disparity in the skill gap. And then you got Andre Muniz. Right? He got subbed by Brendan Allen. And then he got KO'd by Paul Craig right after. Like, dude, seriously. You got to think, at least Muniz possesses better grappling than Aliskerov. Aliskerov, he's just got more tools to get it done, though. I think, like, dude, he's, like, effectively looking to finish as impressively as possible. Hear me out. What Aliskerov lacks in words, he looks to put on impressive finishes that speak volumes. His actions speak louder than words here, guys. I think Ikram Aliskerov can knock out Andre Muniz. I mean, if Paul Craig can knock out Muniz in round 2, surely Ikram can. If he can't knock out Muniz, Muniz will have the advantage if he gets Aliskerov to the ground. And I think at that point, we'll likely see a decision. Like, considering Aliskerov's never been subbed, like, you gotta factor that in. There's something to note also, Chimaev knocked out Aliskerov. I am gonna pick Aliskerov to win by knockout, just based off of these facts. Last but not least, we got on the main card Muhammad Naimov and Kaan Ofli. Both of them are 11-3, 11 wins, 3 losses. Naimov has a 4-inch reach advantage, both coming off of 1 loss in the UFC. Now, briefly about Naimov, right? He's 3 wins, 1 loss in the UFC. He had a loss to Felipe Lima, who, like, has just been looking great, man. He looked great against Miles John, passed the big test in Tampa last month. Like, dude, that was, like, one of my favorite fights on that card. And then for Ofli, this is going to be his technically second fight since he had that tough finals debut at Cannonier Braulio fight night. And I tell you, man, Ofli is a awfully great wrestler. You know, he came off Ultimate Fighter, tough 32 finalist. He lost via round 2 KO to tough 32 winner Myron Santos, who just seemed like levels above everybody else. I'm a fan of Myron Santos. And then Ofli looked awfully nervous and stiff, and Santos was cool, calm, and collected. So, I mean, it was a great fight. Got knocked out round 2, like I said. His matchup before that in the Ultimate Fighter, dude, he subbed this guy in like a minute. The guy abandoned the game plan and like charged at him. I can't even remember the guy's name. His first fight in Tough, he had a really close fight with Nathan Fletcher, I think. I think he'll end up in the UFC. I just think he's got it. I think he'll eventually get into the UFC. But, you know, Ofli's got a good record, man, with submissions and decisions, all the issues. Except I don't think that Naimov will give Ofli permission to submit him. Naimov can hold his own on the ground mostly. Like I said, he got subbed by Lima in round 3, but other than that, like, he's looked great in grappling and striking exchanges otherwise. Naimov, better striker, has substantial power, some KOs. He's a more well-rounded guy. He's got a pretty big build for featherweight, too. Like, I really like Ofli. He's just a cool guy, but I just don't think he's going to win this one. I'd love to see him, like, win spectacular fashion, but I am picking Naimov to win this. But yeah, be sure to leave a comment. Let me know what you guys think. I love hearing input. We can go back and forth in the comments. But that's the video for today, guys. If you liked the video, be sure to leave a like. And also, remember to hit that subscribe button if you want to see more UFC content from yours truly, Noah with Youngblood MMA. And I'll see you guys on the next video. Thank you guys so much for watching.